Doc Smitty, or Dr. Justin Smith, coming to you live from the Cook Children's Prosthetics and Orthotics Department. Today I'm here with John Johnson. He's the director of the department, and we're really excited to be here with him today. We're going to go through some of the information about the department, and we're also going to walk through a process I think you're really going to find exciting and really interesting. So tell me a little bit, John, about the types of patients that come into the department and what you guys do for them here.
We see a very wide variety of patients here. Everything with kids from the diagnosis of cerebral palsy to curvature of the spine to flattening of their heads to muscular dystrophy and pretty much everything in between, including sports injuries all the way down to something as easy as flat feet.
Oh, wow. So you guys are seeing kids across the spectrum, from newborns all the way up to athletes who are older.
Exactly, from 0 to 21.
All right, tell me about some of the most common products that you guys make.
Probably the two most common products that we deal with are ankle-foot orthosis and cranial remolding orthosis.
Okay. Well, I have a lot of questions, but I think we probably should just start showing everybody what actually goes on here. So tell me, patients refer to your department and they show up. What goes on from that point on?
Well, initially we'll have a clinician go into the patient's room, evaluate them for the type of device they need. They would test their range of motion, their manual muscle testing, or their strength, in addition to watching them walk, all to kind of try and determine what type of device they're going to need.
Okay.
At that point, they would take a cast of the patient's limb, essentially wrapping them up just like they were getting a fracture, or a cast for a fracture. As soon as the cast hardens, we would take it off, and that gives us a mold of the patient's limb to make the actual device to.
Okay.
From there, we would bring it into this room here, where we would essentially fill that model with plaster of Paris. We typically will put a pipe into it so that we can put it into our jigs over here to modify the device itself. Once the plaster is hardened, it makes a model, something similar to this, where we can go in and add pressures in the areas where we want to provide more support, and then we would also add plaster to the areas where we want to provide relief. From there, once the model's all smoothed up, we would take them over into this room over here. From here, our technicians put a piece of flat plastic that you can see over here into the oven, and we bake it to a point where it starts to melt. From there, we would put a transfer onto the plastic itself, which would then put this print on the plastic. And Tony's going to do that right now.
How hot is the oven that he's working on?
The plastic that we use, the melting temperature is anywhere between 350 degrees to 375 degrees. We aren't taking it to the point where it completely melts. It just softens to a point where it starts, where we are able to work with it. So the plastic will go back into the oven now for probably about 10 seconds. And then Tony's going to pull that back out and pull that the hot plastic that you just saw on that model right over there. So as he does this, he's stretching the plastic around the model and getting all of the seams or wrinkles out of the plastic. and then he will turn on the, as you can see there's a valve at the top that turns on the vacuum. The vacuum sucks all of the air out from between the plastic and the model, and that's what forms our brace.
You talked a lot about making a bunch of different kinds of products here. About how many products do you make in a year through the department?
Last year we made 2,565 individual products here in the lab. With that, we also fabricate some of our devices outside, outside fabricators. So all in all, we've treated about 5,000 kids here in the Orthotics and Prosthetics department last year.
It's definitely a busy department. How common is it for you to have a children's hospital that makes their own orthotics and prosthetics?
There are several across the nation, but it's not generally the rule. Typically, it's the exception. Most hospitals contract this type of work out to outside companies.
Certainly, I'm sure there's plenty of benefits to the system to have you guys internal. I know it's great when I get to talk with you guys about a patient and what's going on. You can get back and forth information from me, and I can give you feedback about what's going on with my patients. I really appreciate having you guys internally to be able to do that. So it makes a big difference for us as clinicians as well.
It's absolutely a unique situation that we have here at Cook, because the doctors and my orthotists are they work very closely together, which we don't typically see in our field.
That's great. All right, so we've got our plastic on. Now what's next?
So from here, once that plastic is cool, we'll cut it off of that model and bring it into this other room. So from here, grab the green brace. Just move it up. So from here, Tony will take that brace and start to smooth the plastic. It's kind of loud in here, so we're going to step out to talk about the rest of it. So essentially, he will smooth up the plastic, get all the rough edges off, and that is almost the final step to completing our device.
So I think we're going to walk down here and see some final pieces. So let's see what you have.
Well, as I said before, we do everything from leg braces to scoliosis braces, and of course the cranial remolding helmets. This is sort of the final stop. After Tony smoothed up the plastic, he would go in and put straps on the braces that essentially hold the device onto the patient's limb.
And I've seen, as we walk through, I've seen, of course, a bunch of different people doing different jobs. So what does it take, or what is it you think that gets people interested in working in orthotics or prosthetics?
Well, for me, in my history, this was kind of the perfect field for me, because it gives our clinicians and our technicians the opportunity to work not only with their minds but with their hands, and they also get to interact with people. It really is the best of all worlds.
That's great. And so tell me a little bit about the training that somebody in prosthetics has done.
Typically, these days anyway, it is required that you have a master's degree in orthotics and prosthetics. From there, you would do a 2-year residency, or a year in each discipline. At that point, you're eligible to take the certification exam. You would do a written, a oral, and a practical exam. And that's pretty much it.
Okay.
As far as
Go ahead. Yeah.
As far as the technical staff is concerned, we have to have a high school diploma, and probably the biggest qualification for you as a technician is you have to have good communication skills, but you also have to have an artful eye and skilled hands. The guys here in my technical department are some of the best out there. They really have an eye for the details, and they have quite a bit of artistic ability.
That's amazing. And so if somebody wanted to find more out about the department, what would be the best way to find out about the Cook Children's Department here?
We are on the, you can find us through the cookchildrens.org website under Home Health and then Orthotics and Prosthetics.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time. I think we've learned a lot about the process and sort of just what the department does here, and we look forward to talking with you more about what you guys do in the future.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.